Now on this particular kind of motor we have an adjustable pulley, meaning it's threaded on it. So with a set of Allen wrenches, and you're probably going to need some WD-40 because this guy's been on the furnace for who knows how long. As you can see right here, this is threaded. You turn the pulley, and you see here's your Allen set screw on the outer pulley. So what you want to do, get some light here, set your Allen wrench inside that and loosen it up. And as you can see, this outer pulley moves in and out. So what you want to do is set that in as far as possible. Now this one's obviously been all lubed up, and it's easy to move. Chances are the one you'll get, this guy here, will be all rusted. So a little WD-40 sprayed there on the Allen screw and inside will help quite a bit to get this guy to loosen up and turn. So now that we've got our pulley close in as possible, what we want to do is readjust the belt again. You'll get this as tight as possible, and then move it back some more and retighten the bolts. Make sure they're tight. There. Now we take our belt again and we force it onto that little pulley, being careful of our fingers. And keeping your hands and fingers away from everything, we'll try it again. That's a little better. Vacuum. You'll notice when you push on the out, it'll slow that motor down. It's easier to pull in a vacuum than it is to push out compressed air. Not a lot of vacuum, but it's enough for what we want to do. So next is to construct our piping, including our vacuum gauge, our little vacuum relief doohickey here. So let's put all that together right now. So you'll see I've got some T's, our vacuum gauge, and you'll notice the thread size. That thread size there, you want to be the same as your T size. Now here is our vacuum adjustable with this little nut here. That thread size is a little different than our vacuum, so what I did was I went and bought a coupling that'll fit that to this size here. Got sorted T's, nipples,
And I've also bought a plug and an extra T, and I'll show you why in just a second. So what you want to do is assemble all this together. This is where our hose is going to hook up to our air conditioner. Here's one T. The plug will go inside that T. Here's another T. Here's a nipple. Here's our coupling. Let me move that out of the way. Here's our relief valve. Here's another T spread out by nipple. Here's our vacuum gauge. And this is where our hose will hook up from here to the milking container.
So we have all our fittings. What we want to do is put them all together. And what you need is a threading compound or Teflon tape. Now I just use called pipe joint compound. Comes in a can. Kind of handy to have around the house anyway. Apply some to the threads. Like I say, we're not building the space shuttle here. It's just a built vacuum machine. Just a little bit will do. It's negative 10 pounds vacuum. Not much. But we don't want any obvious leaks. So we'll assemble all this together. Little pipe joint compound there. Screw that together. A little bit of pipe joint compound on that. Screw that together. That in there. Take our coupling, another nipple. You can get whatever size you want for nipples and pipe, but consider the width of the vacuum gauge when you space your T's apart. A little bit of pipe joint compound. Now we have our gauge. We'll just put a touch. Make sure you don't get any pipe joint compound in that little hole on the gauge. Pipe wrench, a couple of vice grips, put it together as snug as possible. Doesn't have to be overly tight. And we want to protect the gauge at all times. There's a piece of glass inside. We don't want to break it. We'll probably put that on last. Just kind of line them up all straight together, like that. Tighten that a little bit. Now, our brass fittings here, probably a good idea to use a crescent wrench. You don't want to, you can use pliers, but pliers will mar up the brass, maybe make a sharp edge. Snug. Just snug it up. There's our T section. Here's a little cap, little plug. We're just going to put that in hand tight. And I'll show you why when we get it all put together. Just a touch of joint compound on this big gauge. Make sure no joint compound plugs up that hole on the gauge. Just put that on the T. Take our crescent wrench, just put it on in a way where we can see it while it's in. It doesn't need to be very tight. That's good enough right there. Our system's all set up. So here we have a T set up with our gauge, our adjustable relief, vacuum relief. It'll help us adjust the vacuum on our gauge so we don't have too much vacuum. The animals will appreciate that. And a little plug. Now what's the plug for? Well, your air conditioner uses oils to keep it moving smoothly, and it'll help with that motor and turning of the air conditioner. So what I do is I just buy an extra T and a plug. That way we can put a couple drops of oil, and that vacuum will pull the oil into the air conditioner. And this just needs to be on there hand tight. That way you can just remove it whenever. Use whatever. I just use like 10W30 oil, a couple drops every now and then just to keep the air conditioner lubed up. So there we have our T assembly. Now hose is up to you. I know not all the pipes are the same size coming off the air conditioner or the pipe. So here's a little trick. Let's set our gauge off to the side so we don't break it. Here's our air conditioner pump. And here's our vacuum. We got some hose clamps and some hose. Your hose should be thick enough where it won't collapse. Now you can use like a clear hose you can buy in a hardware store, or if you got old garden hose, don't throw that stuff out. You can use that on other things. And that slides right over that. So you can reuse that. Now, if you got hose that's too big, a little bit of electrical tape, just wrap it around the pipe just to fill in that gap. Good enough. Don't worry about it. Now, for me personally, I like to use a clear hose in between the air conditioner and our T assembly. So when I take this cap, I can see the oil going back into the system. It's not a big deal. That's just me. And you can see how the T doesn't exactly fit, or the pipe doesn't exactly, it's loose on that hose. So what we do is we clean it off. Let me